In the quaint town of Baskerville, the Johnsons lived in an ornate Victorian mansion with their daughter, Susie. The mansion had an attic filled with old relics, where Susie discovered an antique dollhouse that was a miniature replica of their home. Susie quickly became absorbed in playing with the dollhouse, spending hours alone in the attic. Her parents noticed a change in her joyous laughter was replaced by an eerie silence. But they dismissed it as a child's infatuation with a new toy. One night, Mrs. Johnson woke up to find Susie was not in her bed. She found her in the attic, whispering to the dolls. As she approached, she heard Susie say, "Don't worry, Mommy will join us soon." Feeling unnerved, Mrs. Johnson questioned Susie, who calmly responded that the dolls were lonely and wanted their mommy. Mrs. Johnson, trying to shake off the chill she felt, took Susie back to her room and decided to remove the dollhouse the next day. The following day, Mrs. Johnson was nowhere to be found. Mr. Johnson searched for her frantically until Susie led him to the attic. There stood the dollhouse, now with a new miniature figure inside that bore a striking resemblance to Mrs. Johnson. Susie smoothed down the miniature figure's dress and said, "See, Daddy, Mommy is with us." Terrified, Mr. Johnson tried to get rid of the dollhouse. But each time he threw it away, it reappeared in the attic. Every night, his sleep was haunted by the cries of his wife emanating from the attic, his sanity slowly crumbling. One morning, Susie and her dollhouse disappeared, leaving behind a distraught and lonely man. The police were called, but the search yielded nothing. They thought the poor man had lost his mind due to his wife's disappearance. The town whispered about the cursed mansion and the dollhouse that vanished with the little girl. Years later, the mansion was demolished, but the workers claimed they found a dollhouse in the debris, unscathed. They said it was a perfect replica of the mansion, with two miniature figures inside that looked eerily like Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. The dollhouse was left behind in the rubble, a chilling testament to the horror that unfolded within the walls of the Victorian mansion. The tale of the dollhouse became a permanent fixture in Baskerville's lore, reminding every passerby of the eerie, unsolved mystery.